The Kunai vs Kunai is fucking sweet. If you've come to any of my streams, or hell, any Spy player's stream, there's a pretty good chance they're using the Kunai, and with good reason that we'll get to in a sec. Quick rundown of the stats: the modern Kunai reduces your starting health to 70. However, backstabbing an enemy will drain all of their health and add it to yours as overheal, with a minimum of 75 drained and a maximum of 210, also not allowing your health to exceed 210. And another little bonus, any overheal from the Kunai or medics will drain more slowly, at a rate of 2 health per second rather than the usual. With the basics down, the most well-known trait of the Kunai is how well it performs in pubs. It's almost always my default choice when joining any game, and it's due to one very simple factor: newer players. When your primary weapon gives you a big boost of health when you backstab someone, and there are loads of newer players roaming around that are easy to stab, congratulations, you've just discovered the ninja way. Already as a spy, pubs are a whole different world than any competitive setting, but this is especially so with the Kunai. Obviously, getting tons of overheal from backstabs is great, but what's really interesting about this weapon is how much you can do with that overheal. First of all, and most obvious, the ability to tank more hits. As I talked about earlier this year in my knives video, the Kunai excels at letting you choose between going for more kills with a chain stab, or escaping a dangerous situation that you don't think you can win. Knives like the Eternal Reward and Big Earner definitely have a lot of similarities here and can do some specific things better, but I believe the Kunai to be much more flexible. The one thing that stops you from doing your job more than anything else as a spy is dying. And when you get a minimum of 75 extra health from every backstab, this knife does such a good job of opening up your options for escape. Or, if your brain's dopamine receptors have been absolutely fried by the social media nightmare concocted by modern society like me, you probably prefer going for chain stabs and trick stabs at literally every opportunity, and on that front, the Kunai delivers. One of the most important things you can have as a spy is time. Be it extra time to confuse the enemy with the Eternal Reward, extra time to question your life choices by buying a golden knife that you never use, or more time alive with the Kunai by being able to take more hits. What this extra time with the Kunai especially allows you to do is maneuver around enemies. Normally a pyro is able to melt you almost instantly if you're in range, but with some overheal, you have more than enough time to approach and go for a stab. Now I want to clarify that this is not the smartest way to play Spy, but it is one of the most exciting and fun, at least for me. The main reason I actually started maining Spy in the first place was because I wanted to learn how to trick stab, and the Kunai opens up so much opportunity for you to experiment. And nothing proves that better than this.
Oh my fucking god!
Surfing and rocket jumping are already some of the coolest mechanics in the game as any class, so when you combine that with the ability to backstab, magical things can happen. Surfing is technically always possible as Spy, but the overheal provided by the Kunai turns it from a risky escape tool to an incredibly flexible mode of transportation.
You fucking knew!
You can get to areas previously inaccessible, escape almost any situation, and of course, get surf stabs. If you know me, you know risky, over-the-top plays are my favorite, and surf stabs are the pinnacle of that playstyle. It's incredibly hard to do given the specific conditions required to get one, but it's hard to resist trying at every possible turn in hopes of that dopamine rush. When you add surfing as a mode of transportation on top of everything else you're able to do with Kunai overheal, the primary strength of the weapon becomes clear. It gives you so many options in so many situations. You're able to play to your own strengths and playstyles. If you're like me, it gives you loads of different ways to go for more stabs and create exhilarating plays. If you like to play it more safe, the extra health does an incredible job of ensuring your escape, provided your movement is good. And if you like doing a bit of both, you can pick and choose either whenever you feel it fits the situation. Now inversely, this doesn't mean the Kunai is a great choice in every situation, but I'll talk more on that later. It's a fantastic option for the intermediate to high level spy that really wants to try and learn how to outmaneuver and outthink enemies after being noticed. One of the most important skills you can learn, and one that the Kunai gives you a lot of breathing room to practice. However, my reasons to love the Kunai go a lot farther than just the in-game stats. One of the most frustrating parts of playing Spy is dying. Obviously as any class, it's annoying, but as a Spy, it's especially easy to feel like the enemy hardly even has to pay attention to you to get rid of you entirely. Getting barely flamed by a pyro, getting tossed around by a soldier with ease, even medics running right up to you, critting you, and moving on without a second thought. All of these things happen often because Spy is flimsy as all hell. But what if, theoretically, there were a way to not die the moment a pyro looks at you funny? I'll be honest and just say I don't have a clever way to segue into this, so I'll just get to the point. The kunai forces enemies to actually interact with spies for more than a second. It turns half-second encounters where you have no options into one where you might actually live for a few seconds, and force the enemy to actually have to employ strategies that aren't just shoot spy to beat you. This, I believe, is why so many can find the kunai frustrating to play against. So often, the moment an enemy spy is caught out in the open by even a single power class, it's a joke of an encounter. Players are used to almost always winning these battles with little to no effort required. So when there's a spy who actually doesn't go down instantly, it feels unfair. This is also one of the reasons why the kunai is so effective in pubs. Players are conditioned to always underestimate a spy in the open, so they rush them down and expect them to die no problem, completely letting down their guard and making them incredibly vulnerable to trick stabs. It's easily one of my favorite parts of playing kunai and spy in general, punishing overconfident power classes in scenarios where the spy is theoretically at a major disadvantage, but the hole goes even deeper. Sure, all that can make the kunai fun for the spy player, but doesn't it mean it's just more frustrating for everyone else? Well, maybe, but only if you refuse to learn and improve, something the kunai forces you to do. In essence, the kunai teaches players how to truly combat spy beyond the absolute basics. You can't just cheese your way out of an encounter with a few half-witted rockets and a high crit chance on your melee. You need to learn. And learn you will today, as here is durrbill's unofficial guide to fighting any spy in the open, especially kunai spies with overheal. First and abso-fucking-lutely most important, do not get close to him. This is where like 90% of my trick stabs come from, and it's completely preventable. Like I just mentioned, it's easy to feel super confident in yourself and go for a cheeky melee crit. And trust me, I understand, I don't like fighting spies much either. But it's so important to just play it safe. Keep a healthy distance away, close enough to do damage, but far enough to where he won't be able to trick stab you. This is also 10 times as important if you're playing medic, and seriously, please hear me out medic players. I know it feels good to kill spies, I know most trick stab attempts fail, especially mine, and I know you just want to say thanks after getting the kill, but it just isn't worth the risk. This fight with the medic here, for example, this guy has full uber, and he decides to charge at me regardless. He does end up winning the battle, and I flubbed hard, but he doesn't know for sure that that's what was going to happen. Every little approach is a roll of the dice as to whether or not I'll pull something off and drop his uber. The scenario is also important to showcase because his entire team is right there. Sometimes you're locked into a 1v1 scenario and have no choice, but here it is definitely not necessary. Don't be afraid to wait for a teaming, as a 1v2 is multitudes harder for a spy to win than a 1v1. And again, this advice applies to any interaction with an enemy spy, so try to remember it even if it sounds like simple advice at first. As for other ways to fight kunai spies, you need to exploit the downside of the weapon, which wait, I actually haven't talked about that at all yet, oops. Keeping things simple, the 70 max health the kunai gives you means you die a lot, arguably even more with the other knives. While it does give you a lot more breathing room after you get a backstab, you are on a very tight rope anytime before that. Here's a small list of incredibly common things that can kill you in one shot. Almost any scattergun shot, rockets, ramped up shotgun shots, pipes, stickies, huntsman arrows, and 90% of melee weapons after taking more than 4 damage from anything else. Because of this, you will die so quickly and so often to where I'd say a third of my lives, at least, I die instantly before doing anything at all with this weapon. And I'm probably being generous there. While you already need to play carefully as spy with any weapon, the kunai turns the punishment for getting caught out from a good chance of dying to a nearly 100% chance of dying, especially if they're playing a power class. While this can be pretty stressful for the spy player, what does it mean for you, theoretical non-spy player on the enemy team? To find out, I want to bring up a common issue you might run into when fighting a kunai spy, having to fight him with full overheal every time. Especially as a weaker class like spy or sniper, it's really hard to win a head-to-head fight with a kunai spy that just stabbed your heavy and has over 200 health and overheal. It almost seems unfair, but the truth of the situation is something that I don't think a lot of people realize. The fact that their interaction with the enemy spy starts way before they realize. Think about it, so much spy counterplay is entirely proactive, not reactive. You might put on your Razorback as sniper, equip the Homewrecker and play Pedro for a friendly Engie. Hell, the idea of turning around to look for spies at all. These aren't things you do as you're already engaging the spy. You do it preemptively to help prepare you and your team for when he shows up. And this proves that your interaction with enemy spies goes way beyond direct encounters. And this applies tenfold with kunai spies. When their weapon makes them much weaker before a backstab and much stronger after a backstab, it means preventing him from getting that backstab in the first place is so much more important. Remember, you're able to shut him down with just one rocket, one shotgun shot, and so many other things because of how low their health is beforehand. As a quick and catchy TLDR, the Kunai rewards teams who are aware and work together to take out spies, and punishes the teams that don't. I say teams there because remember, the spy is able to backstab whoever he wants to get that overheal, not just you. It rewards teamwork, game sense, helping each other out, and those are the traits of an awesome weapon.